As we are nearing year end, I'm going to be going over our theme layer project. And this is a wonderful culminating activity that you can use for any of your major novels that you might be reading in an ELA class. So for this activity, they have to have finished the entire novel and they have to understand how a theme is developing throughout the novel. My first example is the theme layer project. For the theme layer project, they are going to create a poster, a chart, or an essay that identifies a central theme or central idea that is developed in the novel. That theme into 4 different layers. So the first layer is how that theme presented in the novel. The second layer, how does that theme connect directly to your life? Third layer, how does the theme relate to your family? And the fourth layer, how does that theme relate to your community and nation? So for this first project option, my students are currently reading Chris Grimley's Frankenstein. And so these are some of the different theme topics that they are able to choose for their project. The will to survive is stronger than misery, fighting for what is right, the individual against family and society, the importance of empathy with others, love is more powerful than hate, and then they're able to come up with their own theme idea as well if they have one there. Project from Chris Grimley's Frankenstein. For this one, they were focusing on love being more powerful than hate. The very first one, they have these really well labeled. So how is the theme presented in the novel? They have a strong description on this one. So it talks about how Victor and his father's relationship kind of ties into propelling the action of the rest of the plot. This person then goes on to talk about how this theme impacts their specific family. They even tied in quotes for society, so how it has impacted society as well. And then they have how it connects to them directly. And finally, for their fourth layer, they talk about how this theme is related to their community and nation. And again, they're going to dig into the different tribulations and hardships that have kind of gone throughout society in our present day world that we live in. To create a comic strip. For your comic strip, you have to include at least 6 different panels. You have to illustrate 6 different scenes from the novel. And all of this, once again, has to tie into the overarching themes that you see presented in the novel. So keep in mind that theme is going to be an idea that the author wants to teach the readers. So each scene has to have a caption explaining what is portrayed, and it has to focus on that major theme. The captions must include the vocabulary words that we have been using in our text. It also needs to include citations. Comic strip, and this person did their writing on another sheet of paper, but at the very first page we see that the creature is facing his creation. He feels accomplished and overwhelmingly happy, but then he realizes his actions and he gets struck with grief and panic. He then runs away from his creation, doomed to be in exile from society. As we move on to the second page, see these ideas continuing. So on the second page, he kind of runs away and he is kind of on the verge of falling asleep. And then he has some nightmares, and these nightmares kind of represent what he thinks will happen because of his creation. Third page, this author has given us kind of a dream sequence. So this kind of goes into the idea of what Victor might have running through his head. So Victor is walking around when he finds his cousin and she offers to dance. He takes her hand and suddenly she sees a decomposing body, a skull with winding hair breaking apart slowly. This person who created this project really focused on the idea of Victor's fears really driving the plot of the novel. Victor wakes up to see his monster in the room standing above him. And again, this goes directly into what you were reading in the graphic novel when he opens the bed curtains to look in at Victor. Finally, on the last page, we see that Victor is running from his house when he hears someone scream his name. He looks over and he spots Henry. Now he's able to kind of overcome his feelings and emotions of fear that he was kind of stuck in at this part. The person who created this project, she also went through and wrote out a very clear theme statement. Creative writing option, and this is for the students who really enjoy writing and thinking from the perspective of specific characters. For this option, the student is going to create 5 Facebook entries from one of the major characters in the novel. Each entry must address the action, plot, and capture the personality of the character. Each entry also has to be at least 50 words. Your project should look like a finished Facebook wall and include multiple pictures. It should have comments from other characters, friends, bio, and likes should also be added as well. Has to have at least a 250 word minimum, and if you're working with partners, that's going to go up. You should also include at least 4 of the vocabulary words. The Facebook page, this is an example again from Romeo and Juliet. You can see for each of the entries, they have an example of how that character is feeling as well as the citation. So they put Act 5, Scene 3, Act 3, Scene 1. They have where that character is from. They have different images that go in to help describe that character. And they also included a quote to help pull you into the mindset of that character. To analyze the topic of judgment in a creative format. So you are going to focus on the idea that it is easier to judge others than to judge oneself. And so when you are thinking about that overarching lesson that our author is trying to teach, you are going to fully develop this idea through a creative format of your choosing. So I've had students in the past who have created a rap about this topic. They have created a poem. I've seen artistic renderings. I've seen detailed apology notes. I've seen board games. When you are done, you need to include 5 to 7 sentences comparing this topic with the way you have portrayed it back to the actual novel, and you need to include in-text citations as well. So here's another example of the artistic rendering. These students have chosen to make actual board games that can be played about the character's journey. In Franken Uno of Death, if you draw this card, you have to go back to the beginning. So each of the cards is symbolic, and they had a set of rules that explained exactly how to play Franken Uno. Have the game Guess Who. They have the instructions. They actually had a bracket where you would draw the characters and then you would set the characters up so you could try to guess what characters were being presented through asking questions from other players. So you have to have specific step-by-step directions for this, and you have to be able to explain how the theme is taught or how an overarching lesson is taught through the game. This is Frankenstreet. For Frankenstreet, you draw a specific card, and that card is going to have you analyze different questions from the text. The very last page that they have on this one goes in depth just about theme. So all of these questions dig deeply into themes. So they had an answer key for each of the questions. Created a map, and they showed all of the places that Victor went in the story. And kind of the home base is going to be in Switzerland, and we see all of the other areas that Victor went when he was chasing his creature around the world. So that would be another option of the artistic rendering. Theme throughout the novel. If students choose The game board, on your last few days before school lets out, you can actually have students take turns playing the different games that they have created. It's also fun to have them present because they dig in so deeply into these projects. If you have any questions or comments about how this project goes, or if you would like a copy of the template that I used for this theme layer project, please leave me a comment below. Thank you.